Hey everyone, Fina here from Fina Reads. Today with the tag video that I got tagged in by Kate from the Literary Apothecary. And by the way, that was kind of my third attempt on saying her name. She's amazing. I don't care that her channel name is a tongue breaker. I'm super excited to do the 25 questions book tag with you. And just in case you're wondering, I have my questions right over here on my handy dandy little screen and my camera is there. I don't know if you've ever wondered, but I'm actually not recording this with my webcam from my computer, but with an actual camera. So that's what I'm staring at. It's sitting on a tripod right there. But my screen of my computer is right here. So every now and then I'm looking there because, I have issues remembering things, even though I saw them 2 seconds ago on the screen. So sometimes I have to write. Starting with something simple. What's your channel about? So right now it's about books, book reviews, rambling about books. But that was actually not always the case. That this channel actually started as a craft channel. I did a lot of craft tutorials for handmade greeting cards. I showed tutorials on how to get messy in your art journal. I created a bunch of tutorials for different techniques or how to use specific craft-related products. I actually for some time worked with some companies together. They sent me free products and then I introduced their products in my videos and made specific things with them, like made a card using only their products and then showed how to use that, right? How to make something nice. And I did that for, I think, 3-ish years. I'm not 100% sure. And I stopped when I was at the same time working on my MBA. About 2 years ago, I started my MBA. And I pretty quickly realized that it's getting really tough to do a full-time job, to do the crafting and the creating of the video tutorials and working on your MBA. And I pretty quickly realized that I can't sustain this. So I stopped working with the brands and I stopped doing tutorials. I actually even deleted my blog, right? I really made a cut there. And then I finished my MBA back in May, but I was not quite in a headspace where I was ready to get back to creating craft tutorials, but I felt like I wanted to do something. I wanted to create something. At that time, I watched a lot of booktube videos, so I thought, you know what, I'll just do that. And here we are. So that's what my channel is now about. And I renamed my channel as part of that. It was before, and you can still see that on my Instagram, and I think my Twitter handle is the same too. It's Holy Lise, but for YouTube, I rebranded it to Fina Reads. How old are you? Old enough to not get this question asked anymore. You don't ask a lady about her age. I'm 37. What's your relationship status? I'm happily married to an amazing husband who's probably listening through the wall right now to see what I'm saying to this question. I actually was hoping that he would ask those questions, to loosen up this whole 25 question book tag a little bit. I asked him if he could answer the questions for me. Seeing how good he knows me, he didn't want to do that. So you have to deal with me now. Next question is, did you go to college and occupation? So you just heard my MBA story. So before my MBA, I studied computer science, regular thing back in Germany. After high school, I studied computer science. Long story. I didn't finish it. It is a really long story. So I didn't finish it. But then I did a bunch of night classes while I was working and basically got equivalent degrees to a bachelor. And then 2.5 years ago, I basically had a conversation with my manager. She said, if you want to, move up, I'm working for a pretty traditional company in that sense, but if you want to move up, you might want to look into an MBA. And that's what I did. And working, it's a bit hard to explain. So the short answer is I'm somewhat of a product manager for our internal CRM system. The long answer is I do a lot of things. The title is not product manager, but it is kind of product manager work. So I'm assessing the needs of the deal desk, our sales support team, to see how they're working with other teams, how they're working through all the different processes. I document them. I'm working with IT and assess the features and basically create feature descriptions. I'm testing together with IT if those things work. And then I train the sales support team on it. I am responsible for the communication, and it's not just me. It's like I have a team that supports me with that. And yeah, that's essentially what I'm doing. And if you had no clue what I just said, that's fine too. Where are you from? Where do you live? So I'm originally from Germany. I lived there for 30 years and I moved to the US about 7 years ago to be with my husband. And just before you ask, no, it was not a military thing. We actually met because we worked in the same company. He worked in the US office, I worked in the German office back then, and he was visiting the German office for, business stuff. And that's how we got to know each other. And then after a while, we just liked each other. And then I came to the US for the first time to visit him. And that was it. And then I applied for a visa, and the whole thing then started. Oh, and I'm living in California in the US. Now we are getting to some weird, heavy questions. At least I don't know if it was meant to be heavy, but it feels like that for me. It's like, looking back, what would you have told your 10-year-old self? 10 is kind of the worst age that you could have picked for me, because I was not in a good position, which is a weird thing to say, given that 10-year-olds should be happy and dreaming about unicorns. Well, I didn't. And I probably would tell myself that life gets easier and eventually you'll understand and it will all be good. Tell us about your family. So I have a younger brother who is 9.5 years younger than me. He is incredibly smart. He is about to finish up his master's in, oh my goodness, I have no idea. I always forget what he's studying, but he has, I think, a bachelor in something engineering. It's a short version. It's something more complex and bigger. And he has is about to have a master's in math with a focus on data science, AI, neural networks, and stuff like that. And I think it's so amazing. We just talked over Christmas on the phone. So he still lives in Germany, but we just talked over Christmas on the phone, and we were talking artificial intelligence stuff. And I never was able to talk. I mean, with my husband, yes, he understands the stuff because he also works in tech, but like with my family, I never dreamed about talking with them about the stuff that I'm excited about and that I work in. And he, we understood each other perfectly. It was so fun because it was kind of the first time that we talked techie stuff like this. And it was so fascinating. And I had so much fun doing that with him. So yeah, I'm a proud big sister, although I always call him my big brother because he is half a head taller than me. My mom and my dad also live in Germany still. Dad, I call him my dad, but technically he's my stepdad. He met my mom when I was, I think, 16 or 17. He has been pretty much my dad, and, yeah. What's your favorite holiday? Easter. Something no one would expect probably, but I love Easter. I made my parents hide stuff. I don't know if that is just a German thing or if you do that in the US too, but in Germany we are hiding like chocolate and little toys and the kids have to look for them. And I asked my parents to do that till I was 30, and then I moved to the US. Unless if I wouldn't live across the half the world, I would still ask them to hide stuff for me every Easter. I love that. I don't know why, but I love it. Next question is, you have no budget. What is your dream vacation? That depends. Budget is one thing, but how much time do you have? If I have limited time because, just PTO and I have to go back to work, I would probably do some sort of trip across Iceland, Ireland, Scotland, Scandinavia. That has been on my bucket list in forever. And while I've been in Scandinavia and parts of it, Denmark and Sweden, I want to go further north and see Norway and Finland. But Iceland is probably, I would start and end in Iceland, I think. Because, I don't know, I always wanted to do a trip in Iceland where you are, I don't know what they're called in English, but the specific horses that you have in Iceland. And have a trip, like a week-long trip, just on the horseback across Iceland. That would be a dream. I'm a bit heavy for that now, but that was always a dream. If time is no obstacle as well, then I would just, journey across the world and see everything. But I would want to make sure that I have a local guide, because I don't want to see the touristy stuff. I want to see the actual country and how people live. And I want to get to know the food and the landscape and learn about the culture. The next question is, name your biggest pet peeves. I have a lot. I'm a complicated girl. No. But I think the biggest would be anything noise related. I'm really sensitive to random noises. And that can be, when you're in an airport, it's already noisy and busy, and that stresses me out. But that if you then have people who listen to whatever they're listening to on speakerphone, on their crappy speakerphone, on their smartphone or on their cell phone, drives me nuts. Like, there are hundreds of people in the airport, and you can hear that squawky speaker from that one person there. It's like some crappy music on that awful sounding speaker. Drives me nuts. If people, makes noises when they chew, and then especially if you're on a virtual meeting, like on a Zoom call or something, and they don't mute themselves and you can hear them chew. Ugh. Or we have a dog 3 houses down that the owners put outside every morning and every night, and I can hear the only thing that dog does is barking when it's outside, because I don't know, they're gone or something. Yeah, random noises. I think that's my biggest pet peeve. What book changed your life? That was White Fragility, and I forgot the author's name. One of the things that I really, really enjoyed as part of my MBA is that we had a lot of courses that dealt with global companies, how to work in a global business, how companies expand into other countries and what they have to keep in mind. And that cultural aspect always excited me. And learning about how other people live, what traditions other people have, and what they see as normal, and how they live, how they work, how their structure, within the society is, and all those kind of things. And when I learned all that stuff, it was about the same time as the whole Black Lives Matter movement kind of started, or not started, but really heated up. As part of that, I read a bunch of books about racism, and the first one was White Fragility, and that really opened my eyes on how to look at racism, that it's not just about how many friends of color you have in your, friend circle, but in generally how you live your life, how you grow up, how society kind of trains you on seeing things a certain way. While it is not the best book on that matter, it was definitely the first book that kind of opened my eyes and helped me see things differently and be even more open and considerate when it comes to different cultures in the world in general. What simple invention improved the world? Well, since I'm a book fanatic, I have to say Gutenberg's book press. Easy answer in that one. Favorite movies and or TV show? I have to say I watch TV to turn my brain off. So I'm not watching anything super exciting. It's really usually silly shows, easy entertainment. From a TV show perspective, it's Gilmore Girls. I've probably watched that, 9 times. And one of the things, oh my God, that was so cool. My husband is always great with finding random things and finding deals and whatnot. And one day he saw that the Hollywood studios in North Hollywood, which is about 45 minutes from where I live, they had Christmas thing. And they basically opened up Stars Hollow and you could walk through the set. And we saw Rory's and Lorelai's house, and we were standing in front of the school, and we even saw the actor that played Luke, well, from far away, like he was there, but we missed it because we were eating lunch at that time. But then we saw him walking away, and it was just awesome. And that is probably my favorite show. Besides that, I like things like Castle or Bones. And when it comes to movies, I don't know. I liked Marvel movies for a long time, but right now I'm kind of in a mood when it comes to Marvel movies. I think if I had to pick one, it's Sissy. It's a German movie that was never translated. It's about the Empress Sissy, who was Empress of Austria and Hungary in, Middle Ages. Next question is one of those where I'm like, it's describe yourself using 3 fictional characters. And honestly, I've never thought about things like, this character has similar traits to me. Because I would not expect that. I'm reading fantasy and sci-fi, so I'm looking for things that take me out of my daily grind. I don't know. I never compared myself to a character, I don't think. I mean, the only time where I did is when I read the book Josephine or Josefine. It's a self-published book about a witch living in Germany. And I thought, that is a fun parallel here. But I wouldn't compare myself to her. It was more because she had the exact same name spelled in the right way. And she comes from Germany, where I come from. I don't know. That's a weird question for me. What was your dream job? Many, many, many dream jobs. The ones that I can remember is I wanted to be an event manager at one point, but then you have to deal with people, and I don't like to deal with people. So I wanted to become a marine biologist at one point, which is actually why I took Latin as my second language. So I had 4 years of Latin, because in Germany, I don't know if that's the same in the US, but in Germany, for like anything medicine related, so if you want to become a doctor or biology stuff, you have to take Latin for a certain amount of time, and you have to have a certain grade in order to get into university then and study that particular field. And for marine biology, Latin was a requirement, so I took Latin as a second language. Unfortunately, the teacher and I did not get along very well, and after just less than a year, I already had an F on my, yearly report card, and that continued over the 4 years that I had Latin. And eventually I just showed up and sat there in the back of the row and didn't even participate anymore, and the teacher didn't even try to help me anymore. And and then other things where like I wanted to own my own bookstore, that's true till today, but I always decided against it because you need to pay your bills, you need to somehow be able to afford books, and a bookseller's salary unfortunately is not that great. The next question is, if magic was real, what spell would you learn first? And that would be teleportation, because I hate airports. Too many people on too tiny of a space. It's always too loud, right? Noises. It's always too loud. It's always, in airplanes, it's always tight. My knees are always on the seat in front of me. So you have to pay more to have more foot space, and awful. I mean, that's something I do not miss in the last 2 years, I have to say, this whole traveling thing, because I used to travel a lot more for work, and I hated airports, especially the LAX airport. Awful. So teleportation, first thing. Share a favorite childhood memory. So I already told you about Easter. That is definitely, there are some memories there that I have when I was really young, running around in my grandparents' backyard. They had a huge property, basically a farm, and there was a section fenced in where they just had, a smaller garden. Every time when we were at my grandparents for Easter, my parents used to hide the stuff back there. And I was running around the backyard, like around their garden, and finding stuff. And the other was, coming from a family of book lovers. My grandpa owned a bookstore back in East Germany when the wall was still up and whatnot. And my mom always used to work in a bookstore. So there are a lot of memories of me just sitting in the bookstore visiting either my grandma or my mom and reading stuff. What is your favorite social media platform and why? YouTube, I guess. I think that's the only one I'm really active on, even though I just created a Twitter account and I had Instagram for some time. But I for personal use, I like YouTube best because I actually use it to learn stuff. And I think there are some great people out there that provide a lot of really good information for free. That is something that I really enjoy, and it's random things like looking at crocheting or even crafting. Right, when I was did a craft tutorials myself, I obviously watched a lot of crafters share their techniques. And then the other time is, it's one of those classical examples. So we had to redo parts of our bathroom because some of the tiles started to break. We had a contractor here who retiled everything, and there was a glass wall on that shower, and he had to put the glass wall back in. But he did such a crappy job that we had to have him come back, redo it, and then it was even worse than before. And then we said, okay, screw it. So we removed all his silicone. I watched a YouTube video on how do you put silicone against a glass shower wall, because I didn't want to have all the residue there. And there was one that I found that was so easy. It looked so easy. And I was like, okay, we'll see how this works. And it worked out. I was so excited. I don't know who made the decision that this should be a 25 question thing. I'm surprised that other videos that I've watched are so short. I'm talking again and I'm already, I don't know. This is going to be a long video. I'm sorry about it. I'm sorry. Next question. If you could pick any book character, who would you spend the day with? Well, it wouldn't be a video from me if I wouldn't talk about Green Rider at least once. So Kerrigan, Claudeon from the Green Rider series. If you don't know why, I'll put a video up there so you can see why I love the Green Rider series and why I love Kerrigan and why I want to spend my day with her. Next question. What's your spirit animal? I have no idea. I don't know. One of those weird questions. What old person thing do you do? All of them. I'm the perfect old person. I go to bed early. I wake up early because I have to pee. I love to, sit just at random places and be like all grumbly about what people do. I don't know. What are other old person things? I love to run around in pajamas and comfy shoes. Do you have a hidden talent? I did think about this one. Let's see if I can do that right now. I can wiggle with my ears. So let's see if we can do that. I don't know if you saw them wiggling. Alrighty, nearly done. 3 more questions. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? I hope I will be retired at that time. That would be a dream. And just driving around in my RV and seeing the world. That would be great. I know it's not going to happen, but that would be great. Next question is share an item and tell us its significance. And it's usually sitting up there, but right a little bit outside of the camera angle, but it's this bookend, which is the head of a horse. And I have two of those. One is in the kitchen though, and is holding up my my little assortment of cookbooks, because I never cook and my husband uses the internet. So and the reason why they are special is, one, they are from my grandma from my father's side. She unfortunately passed away a couple of years ago, but she had these standing, and that was the one thing that I basically kept from her belongings. And I did the same with my other grandma, who unfortunately also passed away. I have other things from her as well. But the reason why this is especially important is, I already told you I moved from Germany to the US 7 years ago. And when I moved, I didn't bring much, because you could rent an entire container, which is a couple of $1,000s or euros, whatever. And I just didn't have enough stuff to justify renting a container. It would be mostly my books, honestly, because furniture was from IKEA mostly. And then it was just smaller things like books and a couple of these things, right? Like family heirlooms. So I decided to not do that. And I instead only shipped 3 moving boxes, just regular postal service. It was 60 euros. Then when I flew over, I took 2 large suitcases. I checked 2 large suitcases, and then I had a carry-on and a backpack. And that's it. That's all I came over with. I sold most of my books. I only brought ones that are really important to me, like some of my childhood books and books I knew I would never get again. But yeah, so this is one of the things that I brought with me, and it says it's an onyx, hand-carved onyx stone. It actually even says it's made in Mexico, so it made a trip back then. But she had it on her shelves in her living room as long as I can remember. And since I like horses, I had to bring those with me. 25 question is really a lot, and at one point you get into are we done yet kind of mode. But finally, last question, tag someone, and that's an easy one because I don't have to talk about myself anymore. I'm done. Good. I'm not a huge fan I love to talk about books and my reading experience, but I'm not a huge fan of talking about myself, if that makes any sense. So this was exhausting. Let's tag some people. I want to see if this can be stretched across social media borders, because I would love to learn some of those things from Sarah, whose Instagram handle is Fairy Reads. I met her through our joint love for the Green Rider, and we started talking about Green Rider, and we read Winterlight at the same time. She has an awesome Instagram account. If you don't already follow her, I'll put her Instagram handle down below and the link directly to her Instagram profile. I think she has an amazing profile. She has an amazing taste in books, which is very aligned to my taste. And if we stay within BookTube, I'm tagging Ian from Ian the Reader. I hope you haven't done this tag yet. I would love to learn more about you. He is also a very great guy to follow. He is funny. Plus, I really like his Book of the Month box prediction video. You should check that out. And then 2 booktubers that are new to me that I would love to learn more for is one, Bryce from Shelf Centered. I just discovered his booktube channel not too long ago, and I really enjoy listening to him and what he's talking about. He also has a great taste in epic fantasy. And then the other one is another Sarah from Bright and Bookish. Also a new channel that I've started to follow just recently, and I would love to learn more from her as well. And then in addition to those that I've tagged, if you haven't done the video before, but you thought the questions were interesting and you want to share a bit more about yourself and who you are as a person behind the whole BookTube scenario, just feel free to do it. It's really a fun tag. Some questions are a bit weird, but you might think they're fun. So what would your answers be for those questions? And in particular, what is your spirit animal? I want to know now. What do people answer to that type of question usually? Alrighty, if those answers were interesting for you and you think, hey, she sounds like a fun person to be around, feel free to hit the subscribe buttons. Then I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I see you soon with my next video. Bye!